Hi, Coach Alexandr here. With over 20 years experience setting up programs, doing research on what GMAT is all about, reverse engineering, teaching for big centers, creating materials for them, working with hundreds and hundreds of thousands of individuals, with teaching hundreds of classes and doing a lot of teaching and seeing the progression and realizing that there's a difference between teaching and coaching when it comes to the GMAT. So let's talk a little bit about the GMAT so that you can start building a good foundation of how to think about what you're doing instead of blindly rushing in and doing things the same way that you've always done them, because something different is happening here. But first, let me explain to you why the GMAT is used in a way and how to view yourself. Okay? So if you think about the candidates, now, okay, we're talking about, let's say, the top 20 schools around the world, and it doesn't really matter whether it's in the MBA, whether it's in finance, whether it's in other masters. The point is, the better the school you want to get to, the higher the competition from smart people like you. So let's take a look at what's really happening. If we look at the world population in general, okay, and we make more or less a rough bell curve. What I'm using, the qualities that I'm using for this bell curve include your quality of life, your level of education and your success in education, your professional accomplishments, because most people have worked for at least a couple of years. It's not a requirement, we can talk about that, but most people have done something in business. And your overall skills and where you are in society, no matter where you are, okay? You are really on the very, 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 very far edge. Take a look over here. This is where you find yourself right now before even doing the MBA. Now, if you consider that there's 6 or 7 billion people in the world, even if we get rid of the people who live on less than $1 or €1 or a ruble a day in the poor countries, even if you talk about people who are relatively well educated or may have finished high school, you are still in the top percent. What percent is this? Is this the top 10%? No, I don't think so. Maybe it's the top 5% of the population, maybe less. But it's hard to notice that because we're surrounded by other people who also finish school, who also are working with us in our job. We see people who are more successful. We see people who are less successful. So it's hard to have a perspective from the inside. Okay? Now, if you can read and write, and you are and you're not blind, let's say, you can get a driver's license. Okay? So the exam to get a driver's license in your country, or an international driver's license, is open to the majority of this population. But the GMAT is not for the majority of this population. The GMAT is for people who are like you're already there, for candidates who are already well ranked, comparatively speaking to the rest of the world, in their accomplishments academically, professionally. Usually people are bilingual. If you're an international student, that means that you speak English fluently, or you will by the time you enter and by the time you leave. That's no problem. We'll talk more about that. So the GMAT is for these people, which means it's got to be significant. It can't be like a driver's test, which may be difficult, but as we can see, almost any idiot can get a driver's license. So let's move on and think about, of these people who decided to have higher goals, who want to do a top program, who want to do a good MBA, who want to do a good master's degree, who want to do something. These are competitive programs. So what we do is let's take this population and let's break that population into its own curve. Are we okay with the knowledge? So far, so good. You don't even need to know statistics. And I'm approximating. So the higher your goals are, the better the school you want to go to, the more you want to distinguish yourself among this curve, obviously. And so the GMAT and the other exams, but specifically the GMAT, was created to stratify this population. And guess what? If you want to go to schools that are ranked at the top, or that are ranked in the top 20 or something like that, and you can see the scores, they publish them, it is natural that within this subpopulation of people who want to apply, of applicants, which comes from already a relatively small world population, they need to break you down even further, knowing that you've already finished your high school, that you've already done your bachelor's degree, maybe master's degree, in some cases PhD, and probably did very well, because the best schools want to make sure you have good grades. So you may have a great education already, but that's not good enough. So they've created a test that they believe stratifies this even further. And if you want to go to the top 10% of schools, well, then you need to be closer to the top, similar proportion in your entrance examination. On the GMAT, this is usually 700. There's a range, but it's usually 700 and above. And it would not make any sense if, well, you know what, these people are smart, so they can take 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 1 month, and they could study the GMAT, or they could go to some center and they will teach them some tips and tricks, and they're going to get in the top 10%. Well, the truth is that would be foolish. And if you think about it logically, it would not give the school a lot of information about your capacities if it was that easy to get a score in a short time, because it just would not be a valuable tool for the schools. So the truth is, your MBA or your master program begins when you really make an internal commitment to doing it, and your GMAT studies is not just a way to enter, it's part of your preparation, and it's a preparation that you could do horribly badly, even though you work very hard and you're very smart, and not get the results that you want. Or it's a preparation and also a training and a learning of skills that you can do very well if you plan well. And that's what we're going to talk about in our other videos. But you are always welcome to contact us. The information is here on the websites if you want advice or you want to have a chat.